A common question people ask me is, what's the difference between auto loops and auto scripts, and which is better? So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of my thoughts from my experiences on best practices and which one I prefer. Hey everybody, how's it going? Daryl here, welcome to the channel. So this is like my fourth SoundSwitch long form video in like the dummy series. So my first one just kind of went over SoundSwitch basics, a crash course teaching you everything you need to know from a complete beginner to up and running, just the bare bones essentials. My second one was just a tutorial on the Control 1 and all the amazing functionality and control you have over your lights without having to do any pre-programming. And then my third tutorial was on auto scripting and some of the best practices with that and how to do it, going over some of those presets. We auto scripted a bunch of songs. And so in this video, we're just going to talk about auto loops versus auto scripts. This video assumes that you have some of the base understanding of SoundSwitch, but auto loops are basically just chases, and they are the default of SoundSwitch, and if you have it connected to your DJ software, it syncs to the beat. They're just chases. Most DMX software have chases. And auto scripts, or scripts, are light shows that are specially made for a song. In the auto scripting engine, if you set it up right, which I teach you in that third video, it will make a light show that knows the different parts of the song, it knows which lights you have, and it syncs really nicely to the music. And just based on that description alone, it seems like auto scripts are the better option. And to be quite honest, auto scripting, the pre-analysis of your tracks, is the heart of SoundSwitch, and ultimately having a custom time-coded light show per song, it doesn't get much better than that. And then as a mobile DJ, it's just kind of like a plug and play, hands-off experience. To cue that custom time-coded light show, all you have to do is drop the track in your DJ software, as long as your DJ software is Engine DJ, Virtual DJ, or Serato, and it will play back that song perfectly every time without any additional effort from you. Pretty darn awesome. So Daryl, why do you preach so much about auto loops, and why do you mostly use auto loops? I think investing some time into some solid auto loops is a crucial step before you start getting too much into auto scripting. I'm going to tell you why. SoundSwitch has a mode called standalone mode where it operates without being connected to DJ software. So if you build your entire light show based on scripts and you only have like the very basic bare bones auto loops, then that is going to be your default when you decide to operate in standalone mode. And if you use a DJ software that's not supported, aka anything that's not Engine DJ, Virtual DJ, or Serato, or if you're running lighting for another DJ and you don't want to go through the hassle of downloading SoundSwitch on their laptop, getting the license set up, and making sure they're playing scripted tracks, which that is a problem if you are a multi-op, trying to make sure people have all of the copies of the scripted tracks. Or if you're running lighting for a band and they don't have backing tracks, that is a time that you can't rely on auto scripts, and you'll be glad that you invested some time in some solid auto loops. So if you get anything out of this video, just know that I'm saying auto scripts are amazing, but having good auto loops is an essential first step. And then a huge part of troubleshooting is sometimes the DJ software doesn't talk to SoundSwitch for whatever reason. And sometimes you're just in the situation where it's not ideal to restart your laptop or restart SoundSwitch. So putting SoundSwitch into standalone mode and relying on those auto loops is a great workflow to make sure that your lights keep running and your crowd isn't left in the dark, literally. Because I only have 96 of them and I know what each one does, so it's a little bit more predictable. So for certain songs, like anything USA based, like Party in the USA, I have a few auto loops that have color themes of red, white, and blue, so I'll just cue those for those songs. Then for slow dance songs, it drives me nuts when the lights are so dynamic and they're blinking left and right. So I like having an entire bank of slow auto loops to kind of match that mellow vibe. And so when a slow song drops, I know which auto loops to play. And scripts are a little bit more dynamic and unpredictable. And the more auto scripts you have, especially if you try to batch edit all of the songs, which I'm going to do in today's video, the auto scripting engine sometimes is like really dim or really slow for like intros or for parts of songs it can't interpret. And I mentioned that it makes light shows more dynamic, which is a blessing and a curse. So part of dynamics is like, if you have 4 different groups of lights, like I have behind me, tubes, movers, strobes, and uplights, the light show is great if you bring all of your lights. But if you have your scripts like really deterministic on this setup, what happens if you don't bring one of the groups? Let's say I go to a gig because there's no place for a movers, so I just leave the movers in the car. Does that ruin the entire light show? Does it feel incomplete? Does it feel off? Or tubes or uplights? If you have your auto script tuned for 20 uplights but you only brought 16, does that make the entire chase feel off? But I feel like that's an entirely different discussion, so I won't go too much into patching. I have an entire video on patching. And then what happens if I get sick of these moving head beams and I decide I want moving head washes? Your script is a little bit dependent on these and it becomes a little bit fragile. You might have to auto script all of the songs again. And if you auto scripted all the songs in your entire library, that can be painful to do all that pre-analysis. But at the end of the day, auto scripts are the heart of SoundSwitch and really what separates it from all of the competition, because pretty much every DMX software out there can run a chase, but SoundSwitch can make custom light shows per song, and you can even manually create them yourself, which many of you have seen me do that. It's not always the most practical to custom make your own light shows, but it is a lot of fun. And so in my case, my favorite workflow is to have some solid auto loops, provide a little manual input. And I sometimes have a few songs that are auto-scripted. But you know, as a DJ who reviews gear regularly, and I'm constantly swapping lights out, and I have a bunch of DJs that work in my company that don't all have the same lighting fixtures, and we don't share like music libraries, and actually in the early days, I did try to coordinate auto-scripted songs, and I'd make sure that they could download those specific songs as part of SoundSwitch to make sure that they were delivering that auto-scripted experience to our clients. But that was just a pain to organize, and they're getting repeats of songs. Sometimes they'd play songs that weren't tied to the auto script, so it didn't really matter anyways. But yeah, that's basically it. I highly encourage you to spend some time improving on the default auto loops and making them your own. Even if you auto script those auto loops, that's going to be a huge improvement over like the default base ones. And again, if you're interested in the SoundSwitch shortcut, I have a link in the description below where you can check that out. Now, I was going to do a comparison so that you could see the difference between auto loops and auto scripts, just like a really short, quick and dirty set. But I think I may save that for a different video. I feel like this video is already running too long. So what are your thoughts on auto scripts versus auto loops? Let me know down below. Well, that's all I have for you today. Goodbye.